All right, welcome. Today, we're jumping right into one of the biggest ideas in finance, the tokenization of, well, everything. We're going to break down what it is, why it's such a huge deal, and most importantly, which technologies are getting ready to capture this massive, massive shift. Let's get to it. And look, this isn't some wild idea coming from a random corner of the internet. That's a direct quote from Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock. You know, the world's largest asset manager. When the giants of traditional finance start saying this is the future, you gotta pay attention. It's a huge stamp of approval for what's coming. So the consensus is really starting to form. Tokenizing assets isn't really a question of if anymore. It's a question of when. People are calling it a tsunami, an inevitable shift in how we think about ownership itself. But what does that really mean for the stuff we own and the markets we use every day? So at its very core, what is tokenization? It's all about taking real-world things, stuff that's historically been a huge pain to buy and sell, and turning them into digital tokens that live on a blockchain. We are talking about unlocking an estimated $16 trillion of value that's currently just stuck, locked up in things like real estate, fine art, and private companies. The first, and maybe the most powerful, use case is for these physical things. Just think about a holiday home. Right now, selling it is this long, drawn-out, expensive mess with lawyers and agents. But what if you could tokenize it? You could sell tiny pieces of ownership to anyone in the world, instantly. You could even have their share of the rental income paid out to them automatically. It just changes the whole game. And this is where it gets really practical. I mean, look at how this breaks down. You get fractional ownership. You can own just a small slice of that vacation property. Or think about shared assets. Instead of a farmer having to buy $1 million piece of equipment, they could just buy tokens for pay-per-use access. It all creates a global market that's open 24/7, and it's all managed by smart contracts, which are just bits of code that automatically enforce all the rules. And man, this quote just nails the shift in thinking. It's from the InvestAnswers channel, and it really puts everything into perspective. The whole idea of markets just closing for the weekend, it's going to sound completely ancient. We're moving to a world where value can be traded instantly, anytime, from anywhere. A truly global, always-on system. But okay, this concept goes so much further than just buildings and tractors. The next wave, and this is the really mind-bending part, is about tokenizing things you can't even touch. We're talking about creating markets that literally never existed before. Yeah, this is where it gets pretty futuristic. Imagine being able to tokenize your own skills, your creativity, or even your personal data. This isn't just about making old assets more efficient. This is about creating entirely new ways to define what value is and how we can exchange it. The InvestAnswers source material actually breaks this down into 3 really cool categories. You could literally sell tokens that represent 1 hour of your consulting time. An artist could sell tokens that give holders a tiny sliver of all future royalties from a song. You could even license your driving data to insurance companies through tokens, or invest in protecting a forest through carbon credit tokens. I mean, the possibilities are just insane. Okay, so here's the absolute key to all of this. If every stock, every bond, every piece of art, every song is becoming a token, all of that activity has to run on something. It needs a digital foundation. And that brings us to the trillion-dollar question, where is all this value actually going to live? This chart, the real-world asset or RWA adoption curve, it shows us exactly where we are right now. And you can see we're at the very, very beginning, starting with simple things like digital dollars. But as we move up that curve toward real estate, stocks, and bonds, the amount of value that's going to pour into these blockchain networks is just astronomical. So this creates a fundamental need for the right infrastructure. All these trillions of dollars in tokenized assets are going to need a home. And that home has to be incredibly secure, it has to be lightning fast, and it has to be cheap enough to handle a constant global storm of transactions. So, which platforms are actually built for that future? Well, the thesis that's really starting to emerge is this idea of a 2-layer world. On one hand, you have Ethereum. With its unmatched security, it's becoming the ultimate settlement layer. Think of it like a digital Fort Knox for really high-value assets. And then you have something like Solana, which is built for pure speed and super low costs. That makes it the perfect execution layer, a global trading engine. The key is, they're not really competitors. They could be partners in this new financial system. And to really make that global trading engine vision work, you need some serious horsepower. The InvestAnswers segment pointed out that a Solana-based exchange handled 10,000 transactions a second during a market crash with zero hiccups. That's the kind of performance you need to actually run a fully tokenized world.
Okay, as we get to our final takeaway here, I just want to be absolutely crystal clear about the context for everything we've talked about today. Look, this is all based on public analysis, and it's purely for informational and entertainment purposes. This is not in any way financial advice. For full transparency, I am personally invested in Solana, so please, please always do your own extensive research before you ever make any investment decisions.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. The tokenization of everything is starting to feel less like a possibility and more like an inevitability. And as trillions of dollars of real-world value start moving on-chain, the single biggest question is this: which platforms are going to become the bedrock of this new financial world? That's what we'll be watching. Thanks for joining this explainer.